Hello out there. I am going to recite for you the very first of my long poems, which was the story of a sailor around 1900 in Orkney stealing the skin of a selkie and marrying her, which, as those who know this kind of story would appreciate, is not the sort of thing that ends well in the long run. Joining us for today is my boon companion, Francis. He's a harbor seal, which makes him precisely the wrong sort, as only the larger species like the gray seal were held in Orcadian folklore to have the power of transformation. But he's the only seal I ever made thus far, so we shall be stuck with him. Not that he's bad company. Anyway, here we go. The Tale of Sinclair. I knew a man in Gloucester town back in 1929, when Grand Bank schooners still sailed down across the roaring brine. His name was Sinclair, and a fearsome sailor he, a fisherman and a whaler, and a Scot of cold Orkney. Hard as iron was his face, his mouth a fisher grim, with yellow hair gone hoary, and lightning in every limb. His glinting eye could shudder down the sea-birds from the air. Dreadful foolish was the lubber who took it for a dare. A hunter and boat-driver born, quick and sure and hard of hand, the helmsman for the tearing storm, and a man of swift command. Cod or marlin, shark or whale, he'd do with club or with harpoon. Line to haul in rain or hail, he'd fight until the crack of doom. And in Sinclair there was strangeness, a wrinkle of nature or of time, not of fierceness, but of faintness, and of some dread thing sublime. Not a man for company, nor merriment and joy. He'd ever speak laconically, despite any friendly ploy. So sad and grim he looked at night when waters were in shade. He sat and watched and smoked through all the jest that others made. Sometimes he would sing upon the bow at watch in Gaelic some unearthly thing that in silver would my senses wash, and all the hairs upon my arms would raise, and my mind fill with sad and slippery dreams, and images lost and still. In harbor he could look upon the seals the livelong day, and then only did I see him smile once upon their play. He knew their habits and their ways and the things that they loved best. Sometimes he would speak their praise while he watched them at their rest. More of Sinclair did rumor tell, and fleet tales were seldom wrong, but from their lips fell a story stranger by margins long. It was the seal that was concerned, not the harbor, but the gray. That he killed a man who killed a seal in a brawl at Cardigan Bay. The dead man was not liked. The witness held his peace. Sinclair sailed with the tide and baffled the police. This I heard upon the Virgin when the cod were roaring high, and all the weeks did I wonder and watch him out the corner of mine eye. And later, when the cod had filled the hull up to the seam, I thought my curiosity would kill me long ere Sinclair's knife could gleam. Time came that I up and asked, as the smoke curled in the cabin dim, why he killed a man over a seal and what hold they had on him. He turned and he looked at me with eyes like death glinting gray, and all around turned tense and ghastly and readied for a fray. But at that moment, Finn Sinclair threw back his head and laughed and said that to answer was fair, for no other man had asked. Wild he was, with strangeness running high. Though he made no move nor threat, the Celt was in full cry, and we thought something would happen yet. He tapped out his pipe and stuffed it, and bade us believe him at our will, for the tale was not fit for a modern man for good or ill. 'Twas one of Orkney's names, the Seal Isles of the North. So the Vikings called them by mistake when Brongvold's men came forth. Isles of wind and standing stones, of Picts and Scots and Norse. Orkney's king swore vows at Colchester to Claudius in force. I did not leave there all at once, that ancient quiet place, but only as the turning time turned away my face. I was a fisher then as now, all my life both boy and man. On the slate-grey sea I'd row and catch the oily fish that ran. There was a seal that shadowed me, sleek, dark, specked and grey. I knew her by her white marks 3 and the style in which she sought her prey. Sometimes I drove her off for fear my catch she'd steal, but always came she back again and raced about me in a wheel. At times it seemed she laughed at me, but never harm she did. So I watched her, dashing free through the surf till 'neath the foam she hid. And in the lonely hours also I'd talk to her at sea, back when I had youthful woe and no ready company. And when I shipped up Arctic wave on a whaler for seasons long, I returned and found her as though she'd been waiting all along. Then one gloomy winter's day, when the fog rolled in cotton thick, and stayed and heavy on me lay till all the time seemed to stick, and the waves tossed and turned me round, and forever lost I thought I'd be, while crowding came visions of the drowned, strange monsters of the sea. There came the seal. Another face she seemed at first, out of the white like nothing real, till truth light on me burst. Dark eyes most familiar gleamed near human life at me, and she looked and turned, wake a glimmer, and led me home from the new-calmed sea. Better fortune did I gain, and never more rode out alone. In time I came to have a name and a greater boat all of my own. There were crewmen 2 or 3, and profit fine and good. There was a house upon the strand, and friends and work I understood. Free and cheerful days were those, with little cause to mourn, and I lived as I chose, for I loved never a woman born. But all at once came alteration, for fate harbored a demand, one memorable occasion as I walked upon the strand. On the windy shore I saw her, by sandstone caves out on the sea, where the icy waves snapped laughter, and kelp washed up with sad debris. Upon the sand so cold and grey, with her sisters danced she there. The moonlight turned to silver all the darkness of her hair. The moonlight turned to snow the whiteness of her skin, and a living grey snow man can know how wondrous limbs held within. From my bones my spirit leapt and twisted in unearthly gale. I could not stand, but nearer crept. To name myself a fool did not avail. Soon she was so near I might have reached to her a hand. Paralyzed stood I for the sight as she gleamed so merry on the sand. And she laughing turned and looked at me with glinting smiles still in her eyes, and I knew them dark and free with more knowledge than surprise. The others saw and fled like seabirds from the blackfish charge, snagging up their sealskins and leaping from the marge. I reached and might have snared she whom I knew silver-limbed. She moved and turned into a dance. My hand skimmed hers, I can it swing across the foam. In dark eyes the light of washing wave lit deep upon the spark of some wild thing which made my heart to crave, and an unknown smile upon her lips did play. Healed we bout again, and at my cheek her fingertips. I could not touch her then. Away went she to join her kin like water quick and silently, and then snapped up the skin that had the white marks three. Into the sea went she, and upon the land I stayed, and for a weary season she was gone, though I searched the water and the shore. I would think of little else in day or night but she, the seal maid on the pebbled strand, who had gazed upon me in such a spirit as I could not forget. Not in woman's form did I see her, nor any glimpse caught of the seal in calm or storm. Thin and restless did I grow through the days that passed me by. My companions were not to know that the trouble was in my eye and in my stomach, and from there to my heart and soul. Sickness came and struck me, and my spirit never whole. But in the last days of summer's light, the fading of the warmth, they were there in the creeping night, moving lightly back and forth. It was then that I came nigh them, hiding midst the shadows and the stones. It was there I searched and found them. Hides. Her hide. Rattled in my bones. There I crouched and looked upon her, so wonderful I scarcely dared. The curve of her cheek, her hair, so wonderful I should not have dared. There I hesitated. There she turned her head, lone amongst the seal maids, like one fated, like one whom that fate has known. That she saw me I know in the shadows where I hid, and besides that I surely know that she knew what it was I did. Her eye glinted and her lips pulled with sadness like a blade, yet without a sign of word she turned, and not a hint of me betrayed. Such sorrow stole my breath, such silence stole still more. Sea water soaked into my knees as I stared there on the shore. For a moment I meant to leave her, alone there with her kin, but the thought into my breast did cleave, and she spake not. I took her skin. When her sisters to the sea returned, still she stood there on the beach before me. Shall you take me, Finn Sinclair? Shall you take me for a bride? Shall I come to dwell with you, await your boat upon the tide? Shall I give you children too, but never more swim at your lee? Shall I chase no more the silver fish all through the cold deep sea? I stood up and spoke my dearest wish. I shall take you, beloved, and you shall dwell with me, whether we should be granted children few or many, and whether it's gladness or sorrow we come to know. I give you all the love that's in me, now and in days both foul and fine. I shall bring you many silver fish from out the roaring brine. There was never another beside you whom I have wished was mine. I waited on her word, and not long had I to wait. Into the core of me she looked, and she spoke strong. You shall have me, Finn Sinclair, for I have followed you from shore to shore and on the moving tide. I have watched for you on morning sore and through the eventide. Yet still I love the starless deep and the waters fast and grey. Still I love to delve where drowned ships sleep and seek for stranger prey. And still I love my kindred from whom I am now twined. Still their calls will stir me, so dread the day that I might find again the skin that's in your hand. And so she came to dwell with me in my house along the strand. Though the villagers looked curiously and whispered and wondered on who she was and whence she came, congratulations they offered and came to church just the same to see us forever joined. The skin I first buried by the fence of my neighbour's cattle pen, and in a season moved it thence to my father's old sea chest, which in my sister's attic I did lay. Obscurity would guard it, such a hope would attend. So I might pray. So I hoped in justice for nigh on 7 years. 7 years laid on us all silver gilt and bright. Joy and tears were born, and little children too. My daughter Mary, firstborn. Dan, my son, came through not as other children do. The morn that he first saw did see him dressed in a curious kind of caul, white and velveteen, and at the first I thought I saw it seal pop in the light. In the chest I laid the caul by his mother's hide. It lay there bright in the gloom, mother seal and her small son there lying. The sight lit in me double dread. The dread did sleep as years wore on, a light uneasy sleep. The thread of doom through life's warp was drawn, a tapestry slowly fading. It grew with him, that caul that was a skin, a fact ever shading my working days. It would call me to look with relentless, gnawing voice. I left it there a year, then 2, then returned there helpless, winding weakness of a father's fear. So it undid me, that fault of mind, for my children saw me to Auntie's attic going. To find treasures was a game, and gigglingly they must have sought riches there. Clever Mary, quick of hand, found her way without the key, and my bride did not withstand the temptation of the sea. Dan she took into the waters grey, and Mary she kissed and left to stand alone upon the quay. My daughter died of fever in spring of 1910, Not a heart and not a thing was mine in all the land of men. Voyages near and far I sailed, with companions new and strange, and in the war with Germany failed, a meeting with death to arrange. And to the Grand Banks I drifted, ship by ship in company, and betimes I still sighted the familiar seal upon my lee. There was another, growing greater, that swam at her side, and through the surf did race, and I'd wonder if Dan thought of me or moved on land. But there was one night, one evil night, dockside at the bay, when Charlie Williams in his spite slew a seal with white marks 3. Killing him could not give life to she who had borne my children, been for 7 years my wife. But some small satisfaction marked the doing. Sinclair fell silent then, with visage grim. He stood, walked up the stair, and out from the silent cabin dim. The end. So goes my Selkie tragedy. I hope you like the accents. My father was kind enough to lend me one of his paintings as a backdrop to set the mood. It's not Orkney, but it works. And, so, if you like that poem, please like, share, subscribe, comment. I'm sure it will make Francis here very happy.